Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here on our Tuesday night, but unlike the Tuesday nights of the past year where we talked about our series of Jewish intimacy, tonight we're not ready to go back to that series for a couple of different reasons, but we have a very special shiur for you guys in regards to witchcraft, dealing with evil. Is it evil? And even the story that's been in the Jewish headlines regarding these converts or supposable converts that left Chassidut and are causing a commotion in the Jewish world. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the Refuah Shlema and Hatzlacha Rabbah for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Arav Ephraim Ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Avi Mori David Ben Nesriya, Imi Morati Doris Bat Jora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides that continue to watch our lectures, support, and donate on the website and everywhere else. Just as a quick reminder for everybody, please sign up if you're going to be attending the live event we're going to have here in Florida, in South Florida, on January 10th. Please sign up on the website bhchizuk.org. bhchizuk.org. That's B as in Be'ezrat, H as in Hashem, and CHIZUK.org. You could sign up over there. If you have any troubles finding it or signing up, you could simply email us at events@bhtorah.org, or you could just send me a message and I'll send you the proper information, the appropriate information for you to sign up if you're going to be attending. I know that there's people from different countries even attending this event. Baruch Hashem, we had a very nice amount of people that are going to be showing up. So, B'ezrat Hashem, we're looking forward to seeing all of you. Everyone that comes will not only have the benefits of coming to the lecture, but there's also going to be some free giveaways, as we usually do, give out books, USBs, different things. B'ezrat Hashem, by then we should have copies of the new book that's going to be in English and Hebrew. B'ezrat Hashem. And also after the lecture and the questions and answers, anyone that wants to get a blessing or a quick few words of advice, I'll be there to talk to everybody. And of course, since there are usually a lot of people that want that, it usually lasts for a few hours. So the main thing that you have to have is patience. If you're in a hurry, don't bother staying for the latter part of the lecture because it takes a while. But I do my best to stay as long as I have to until everybody's questions and issues and personal guidance are addressed. And B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem will give us the health and the ability to do that this time around as well. Especially since I haven't seen many of you in a very long time. So looking forward to seeing all of you. So again, sign up on bhchizuk.org. Last but not least, for any of you that are living in the U.S., and have the benefits not only of being part of the Mitzvot and the Kiddush Hashem that our organization is doing, but also have the benefits of a tax write-off. Now is the time to donate right before the end of the cyclical year. So please help us with all the amazing things that we're doing. We're actually working on a couple of huge projects, bigger than anything we've ever done before. We're going to need a lot of help from you guys if they're actually going to work. And unlike other times, we don't have much time. The decision whether they go or they don't go is going to be made literally in the next couple of months. So this is the type of thing that, we have to let you know that time is of the essence. So anyone that wants to help us, wants to be partners with us, please donate on the website, be'ezrathashem.org, or one of the other many websites that we have, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or BH Torah, the app, and many other places, Baruch Hashem. So with that being said, for those of you that have been really eager to get back to the Jewish Intimacy series, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to go back to it next week, next Tuesday night, Be'ezrat Hashem. We'll be back to that series. And also for any of you that are not aware, the Jewish Intimacy series that's based on the Ramban, that was translated by our dear friend, who is the descendant of the Ramban, and that book hasn't been available anywhere for probably the last year or so. has now become available. As I mentioned, probably about a few weeks ago, a month ago or so. So you could buy it online on Amazon, and it's called Igeret Ramban. Or if you need the link, just send me a message and I'll send you the link to go buy it. It's not from me; it's from Amazon, and it's of course from the author himself. And he actually added a few major things to this particular edition. Aside from the translation and the corrections in the translation to the Igeret Ramban, but he also added the translation of the famous debate between the Ramban and the Christianity, the Christian world, the most famous Jewish-Christian debate in history that took place in Barcelona nearly 750 years ago. That's also translated in there, along with a few other things. So this particular edition has a few surprises in there, and Baruch Hashem, we ordered ourselves several copies, even though I already have one. It's always good to have them, and always good to support tzaddikim. So with that being said, the reason why we picked the shiur tonight, after learning together with our own very dear Rabbi Ephraim, why we picked this particular topic, number one, it's very interesting. Where many people are interested in the world of witchcraft, black magic, and this is something that we've spoken about in the past. The danger of it, the parts of it that seem similar in the Torah, but are obviously a world of difference, because you could manipulate reality by using holiness and not impurity, but that's only if you attain an extraordinary level of Torah scholarship and Kedusha. But this is something that interests a lot of people. So number one, it's an interesting topic. Number two, the world today is shocked. The Jewish world is shocked by a story that has been in the media for the last several weeks of this couple of people that converted to Judaism something around 5 years ago or so, and decided that this is for them. And they lived within the the Hasidic community. I believe it was Satmar, and then took on the at least it seemed like took on the burden of Torah by learning a lot of Torah, impressing people with the amount of Torah that they were supposedly learning, and then one day. They just left the community, went back to the place that they went to, not only physically, but spiritually. A place of Tumah, of impurity, and now publishing a book about witchcraft and tarot cards and black magic and all types of things, but with the appearance that this is good and this is the truth, because they have now spent enough time in Judaism and have discovered the truth is in the idolatry that they're in. So this is, of course, shocking the Jewish world. Many people have, interviewed this clown, and the reason why I call him a clown is simply because of the behavior and the words that come out of his mouth, and simply because it's important that people understand that there's a lot that most people are not getting about this story, because they're assuming that everything he said or everything that was said about him in regards to his Torah learning is true. Now, knowing the story a little bit differently than others, where we looked behind the scenes, we've spoken to some people, we were contacted by some people, some very important people within the community that asked me my opinion. We've spoken to some people, and even some people that were supposed, close to them, and discovered that in reality, the only thing that he and his wife are good at is being con men. But the fact that this was a ticking time bomb from the beginning was very clear to anyone that has eyes. But unfortunately, the people that do have eyes were blinded by the co-conspirators, whether intentionally or unintentionally, of this person. Starting with the person that brought him to the Beit Din and sponsored him and even was part of the Beit Din. I have no idea how they even allow such a thing to happen, but this clown Joseph Klokowski, the partner of Asher Meza, Shem Reshaim Yerkav, to both of them, this Apikoros Mechalel Shabbat, as we have him on video admitting that he watches movies and does all types of forbidden things on Shabbat, he is the one that brought him to the Beit Din. He is the one that, in essence, presented him. And from my perspective, he is the one that pulled the wool over everybody's eyes to make this idol worshiper, witchcraft, so-called mini sorcerer, into the community.
Good evening, everybody. I'm on my way home from Monster Bash Under the Stars, which was in Vandergrift, Pennsylvania. We enjoyed ourselves, had a nice Shabbos, daven. I wore my Strymol and my Bekashol there at the campsite most of the day until it got too hot. Changed back into a t-shirt, but kept my Shabbos pants on and took a nap and enjoyed it. And we walked around a little bit in the drive-in talking to people who were also camped out there enjoying themselves at the Monster Bash program, including what we showed in the video, Chris Yeworth, and we talked about the blog. And we had some lawn chairs and a little table, and we sat and we had kiddush, and we brought some amazing meals, so we were able to have cholent and football. So, maybe it's not the right thing to do. But I'm not, and the truth is I didn't wear white socks. I got Pepperhuisen that are long and was wearing Crocs, but still with a Stramo in the back of chair, one of the light packages. I'll admit that I'm a Russian.
But that has yet to be addressed by anybody, at least not to my knowledge, because, no one is really talking about the sponsoring rabbi or anything like that. And of course, there's a few others that are involved as well. And also, again, other wicked people. But the point being is that the Gemara teaches us, "Ayotze mitameh tameh," something that's impure produces impure things. When somebody comes to you and they have a public track record that they are proud of doing things that are forbidden according to the Torah, forbidden according to the sages, and they're presenting something to you as if what they're presenting is good, anyone with knowledge would usually be very cautious, to say the least, or simply run away from them. Unfortunately, many of the Chachamim that really are involved in serious Torah, Dayanut, and so on, are not really watching YouTube or carefully monitoring some of their colleagues. And these types of things do happen. So I don't necessarily blame the other Dayanim, which from what I was told, the very important Dayanim, Talmidei Chachamim, that have Yirat Shamayim. I simply know for a fact that this Klokowski character has been fooling people for years. He is proud of it, though. That's the strangest part. And no one seems to, catch the drift here, that this is something that's not going to stop. He even admitted in a recent video that he was missing somebody for a minyan in his kehillah, so-called kehillah. He was missing a person for his minyan, so he decided to convert some goy. So now he has 10 people. So anyone that is familiar with how real conversion works, and halacha, and ashkafa, and all of the necessary things that you need in order to truly convert somebody, in order to truly convert, knows that this type of conversion obviously is problematic, to say it nicely. But this same clown brought this little mini sorcerer into the community, and the little sorcerer didn't stop being a sorcerer. In fact, he was into witchcraft and all types of black magic since his childhood, And in fact, this also explains his strange decision to marry a woman that is old enough to be his grandmother, over 30 years older than him, and yet I have yet to hear anybody mention the fact that he, this little sorcerer, admits that he and his wife already met when he was something like 14 or 12 years old. If you add 30 years to 14, you end up with pedophilia. But again, I don't know what they did before, when they got married, but point being is, the whole thing is strange. I can tell you for sure that if you come to any normal bet din that is, I guess, concerned about the community, they're always going to look at such a relationship strangely. If you come to most people, even outside of the bet din, you just come to even non-Jews, and you tell them, listen, my wife is 30 years older than me, they're not going to be very accepting of it because it's strange. Okay, now, again, it doesn't mean it's forbidden, but it's strange. But when a 20-year-old comes to you with a 50-year-old woman and tells you, I want to convert, and you end up helping this person, already it shows that there's not only something strange with these two folks, there's also something strange with those that are supporting them. And then when 5 years later, this strange couple ends up being fakers, abandon the community, and literally overnight, go back to being complete idol worshippers, supporting and promoting Christianity, making pictures and all types of things of how they like to eat pig now, and they're cooking pig, publishing a book about witchcraft. Again, all of this adds up as if, fooled you. That's in essence what it means. It means fooled you. Because there's no way that someone that learned real Torah, even for a year, forget 5 years, could ever get that far in such a short period of time. Now they say, he says that he completed the Talmud Bavli during this time, and he completed this, and he completed that, and all I can tell you is that maybe he completed writing his witchcraft book, but completing the Talmud Bavli and actually understanding and applying what any of it says, he certainly did not, because the reading a book is not what we do in Judaism. What we do in Judaism is we study. We study and we apply. And someone that goes from, saying that they completed the Talmud Bavli to being an idol worshiper literally in a matter of 24 hours, it simply does not add up. And certainly there have been people that have left the path and have gone from being righteous to wicked, but usually it's something that takes time. Usually it's something that has some type of, motivation. It's not the case here. And how do I know for sure it's not the case here? Very simple, because the little sorcerer himself says that although he went into Judaism and converted, he never left the witchcraft. He never left the black magic. He never left the delusion that he thinks that he can manipulate reality. He never left that. He was doing it before he converted. He's doing it today. And guess what? He was doing it throughout the entire time that he was, in essence, viewed as a Jew. Now, this may have been something that the Bedin couldn't become aware of, but the person that sponsored him should have been aware of it. And the reality is that there have been so many mistakes made in this particular fiasco that many people are now questioning whether anyone should accept converts anymore, because these types of people give the righteous people that want the truth a black eye for their mistakes, because they looked religious, they acted religious, strange but religious. So he learned Torah, at least it looked like, and he said he did. So this, Rabotai Yekarim, was another part of the motivation of why we're saying all of this. Again, I think that, of course, accepting converts is not only something that Am Yisrael should do, but they have to do it. This is halacha. The communities that reject converts, whether it's for a takana or because of being cautious, are simply violating the Torah. There's no permission whatsoever to reject converts. You could be cautious. You could even be stringent as far as what it takes to convert, how long they need to study and knowledge and so on. Yes, but rejecting outright is simply not something that any of Gdolei Israel have ever made something that should become permanent. Even those that made the takana in a Syrian community, I could assure you they did not intend for it to be a permanent takana, hence the reason why it's called a takana. It's not supposed to be permanent. But again, the conversion world is something that's difficult, and there's a lot of problems in it, starting with the fact that there are many people that deal with converts without having a clue of what the Torah is altogether. Needless to say, of how to deal with people. So you should know that when it comes to Judaism, Judaism does not tolerate things that are against the Torah, whether it be witchcraft, LGBT, terrorism, all of these different things that, in essence, were not acceptable to society until the recent years. They're still not accepted in Judaism until today, and Judaism doesn't change. Why? Because Judaism is based on the Torah. Now, if you are in a sect that calls itself Judaism, but yet accepts these things that the Torah forbids, you should know you're not in Judaism. You're just in a place that calls itself Judaism. Just like, for example, Gehenom has several different chambers in it. One of the places is called Shtemesre Chodesh, as the Ramak told us. Shtemesre Chodesh is the name of the place, but Shtemesre Chodesh also means 12 months. It's like saying 7-Eleven means 711, or a very famous big, deli/gas station here in America. Okay, so it's the name of a company, and it's also 3 digits, 711. Same thing here. Shtemesre Chodesh is a place in Gehenom. Shtemesre Chodesh means 12 months. If you're at a place that accepts what the sages said is forbidden, what the Torah says is forbidden, even if it calls itself Judaism, whatever other brand it puts on itself, you should know it is not Judaism. It is something else. So, with that being said, I already spilled the whole surprise about witchcraft. Is it allowed? Is it not allowed? But don't worry, it's not the surprise. It's not even up for discussion. Witchcraft is forbidden. As the Torah itself says, Machshefa lo techayeh. There's a verse in the Torah that says, if someone is dealing with witchcraft, sorcery, they, according to the Torah, at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, at the time of the Sanhedrin, the Bet HaMikdash, they would get the death penalty. Why? Witchcraft is not tolerated whatsoever in Judaism. Now, why do people go to witchcraft if it's forbidden? Now, of course, the easy explanation would be that they're not religious. No, but I'm not talking about they're not religious. I'm talking about people that are religious. They do keep Shabbat. They do, dress modestly. They eat kosher. They give tzedakah, not to the local zoo, but rather to an Torah organization of some kind. But yet they go to witchcraft. Witchcraft like the famous Arab woman that lives in Yaffo, or the people that deal with tarot cards, or read in the coffee, or all types of fortune tellers, all types of mumbo-jumbo types of con men, and some of them even look like they are, mekubalim. But again, a mekubal, I can tell you one thing for sure, is not going to do the things that people that call themselves mekubalim today and charge an extraordinary amount of money do. I've met a few, and the behavior of the real one versus the fake ones is literally such a world of difference that it's surprising that people even fall for this trap. But again, ignorance, unfortunately, is a disease worse than corona, or at least the vaccine, or at least the corona. I'm not sure which one was worse. Anyway, witchcraft, Rabotai, is forbidden. There's no permission for witchcraft. There is something called Kabbalah Maasit. Kabbalah Maasit is using different teachings from the Kabbalah, which is part of the mystical aspects of the Torah, in order to elevate your soul, elevate reality, do all types of things. Kabbalah Maasit can even manipulate nature. I know someone that can manipulate metal at ease, just like you could eat cereal. He can manipulate the spoon that's for metal and bend it and do whatever he wants with it. Then there's all types of interesting people. But again, these are not things that you use just for entertainment. It's not something that is to be messed with. But the point being is that there are mikubalim out there. There are very holy people out there. Generally speaking, most of them do not see the public. They do not even disclose this to the public. There's just, few people that they know that they usually tell this to, or their students. Maybe perhaps even some parts of their own family don't know. Either way, to get yourself to a point of being able to practice Kabbalah Maasit means that you have a command, an expertise over all of the foundational principles of the Torah and teachings of the Torah, meaning you have a complete command over the Shas Bavli, Shas Yerushalmi, Shulchan Aruch, the Poskim, the Tanakh, of course, the Zohar, and a lot of other things that most people are most likely unaware that they even exist, needless to say, have read them. Now, if somebody is out there and says that they teach Kabbalah publicly, like on YouTube or something like that, you should know that if they are an honest person, all they're teaching you are things that are like midrashim, stories within the Zohar or other Kabbalistic books that you're allowed to talk about, stories about the weekly parasha, stories about tzaddikim, things like that, no problem. Maybe even different aspects of Kabbalah that are very fundamental, like different parts of the neshama. Those things are usually not so difficult to learn, needless to say, to teach. But if they're telling you they're going to teach you secret parts of the Kabbalah and the root of the neshama and all types of things that are, in essence, the higher level of teachings, either they are a liar or they are a liar. Why? Because you don't teach Kabbalah publicly, and anyone that actually says he does is a liar. Now you would say, wait, maybe they're a wicked Kabbalist. No such thing. Those things. There are certain people that know Kabbalah that have become wicked throughout history, like Shabtai Tzvi and some of his students. But again, it's not something that is even teachable to the average person out there, because they wouldn't know what to do with it. Anyone that even learned a little bit of it would know they wouldn't know what people wouldn't know what to do with the information you would teach them, even if you would simply teach them the simplest name. They wouldn't know what to do with it. So again, people that say that they teach it are usually very good con men. Now, back to our issue at hand. Witchcraft, going to forbidden places such as these sorcerers, tarot cards, psychics, psychos, understanding evil. Why do people do it? The short of it is that people are looking for a shortcut. They have some type of problem, they have some type of desire, and they want a quick solution. They want a quick solution. Now, if a person comes to a Talmid Chacham, they come to a true Torah scholar, they're going to find out really quickly that nothing has a quick solution. Anything that's quick is usually bad. It's usually forbidden. Nothing has a quick solution. Someone got sick, you want a quick solution. Someone lost their money, you want a quick solution. all of these types of things that people come, they want a quick solution. There is no quick solution. Even the Kabbalistic, the real Kabbalistic tikkunim are very arduous, to say the least. Very difficult, take an enormous amount of effort and time, and generally speaking, if the average person out there was even made familiar with the process of any one of the real tikkunim, they would simply realize there is no shortcut in Judaism. Anything that's introduced to you as a shortcut, it's usually a long cut. What do I mean by long cut? It could usually create more problems than good. Now, as I've said in the recent months and over the years, there are times that people come to me for questions. Baruch Hashem, every day we have hundreds of questions. There are also times where people come to me looking for a quick solution. Someone got sick, someone lost their money, someone's looking for a zivug, someone is looking for a divorce. All types of interesting requests that people have. And I try to guide them to the best of my ability, of course, always under the guidance of my rabbi, Rabbi Ephraim. But of course, sometimes people don't really want the answer. They simply want a solution. So they say, can you just speak to a Kabbalist and he'll fix it? Or can I just pay this person and they'll do it? Can you just cure cancer for me or cure, this problem for me? And the reality is that when you give them the answer that even if we were to help, we were to do something for you or for your loved one, it wouldn't work unless there was some type of big mitzvah connected to it, fueling it. Meaning, the change and the tikkun cannot just be on the so-called tzaddik's hands. The person involved has to be involved in the actual tikkun itself, and that's where people don't, back away and they go look elsewhere for someone else that could sell, them, the Golden Gate Bridge, perhaps a higher price, but a bigger promise. Of course, they end up with nothing other than bitterness and disappointment. But needless to say, there are constantly people looking for a quick solution, whether it's the request that I get from people, Rabbi, how can I make a quick 10,000 this month? Or Rabbi, how could I, I have a loved one that is on their deathbed right now, and how could I just fix it? Well, God is not limited, so he could fix it. The fact that God is not limited does not mean that he needs to fix it. And lehavdil, but it's the same attitude that people have towards, let's say, rich people, where they say, oh yeah, listen, he's a billionaire, he's a millionaire, so why wouldn't he give me $100,000? Just because someone has the ability to do something doesn't mean that they'll do it. So putting all of this as so-called like the introduction, and in essence, addressing the foolishness that usually surrounds these issues, we're going to go into the Holy Torah and learn from stories, from the Zohar Kadosh, from the Gemara, from the Chumash, that will give us a little bit of, information that could help us arrive at a better understanding of how to apply it to today when it comes to dealing with evil, understanding evil, rationalizing it. Is it truly evil? Is it wickedness? Is it ignorance? And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will succeed. In this week's parasha, we see that after Yaakov Avinu leaves this world, the Egyptians embalm him and use a process that is unavailable to us 3,000 years later, 3,500 years later, where they're able to preserve Yaakov Avinu's body for 40 days without any problem whatsoever. This was very normal for them. And of course, there is some that say, wait, are they using witchcraft? Because the Gemara says that 10 levels of witchcraft were given to the world, and 9 of them were given to the Egyptians. As we'll learn in the next couple of weeks during the 10 plagues that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought to the world through Moshe Rabbeinu, one of the big obstacles at first was to show people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is much more powerful than the sorcerers or necromancers that were very common in Egypt, that were working for Paro. They were also able to turn a stick into a snake or alligator even. They were also able to manipulate reality. Sorcery, witchcraft, whichever one you choose to call it, was very common. Was very common. Now, the key here is to understand is that there is discussions about witchcraft and sorcery all over the Torah. The sages dealt with this. The sages fought against this. And of course, the sages were also aware of it. Because in order to judge a sorcerer or a witch, you had to know witchcraft and sorcery. So here we'll see that the sages that are in the Zohar discussing this in one of the stories also clarify something about, wait a minute, if you are not allowed to be a witch, but at the same time you have to be part of the Sanhedrin, you need to know witchcraft, how does that work? How does that work? And Bezat Hashem will address that too. Now, first and foremost, when it comes to the Zohar Kadosh, as somebody said in my Hebrew shiur earlier this afternoon, that I did together with Moritz Rabbi, Rabbi Ephraim, somebody said, listen, I don't agree with the Zohar, I don't think it's real, and he was part of the cult of ignorant, arrogant people that assumes that they know more than the sages and more than Gdolei Israel by, of course, mentioning all types of things they read on some podcast or some blog or heard from some podcast of how, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was not really the author, and look, there's a rabbi from Yemen that says it's not this and it's not that. The Zohar Kadosh was reviewed, studied, and toiled over by Gdolei Israel, whether it's the Rav Ovadia Yosef, or it's Rav Yashiv's grandfather, Leshem, or it's Rav Kaduri, the Ben Ish Chai. Countless Gdolei Israel, not only studied it, vouched for it as holy Torah. So, the giants among Am Yisrael studied and taught and encouraged others to study the Zohar. But yet, you, little ice cream cone, come here and say, no, it's not real. When you yourself have not even completed the Chumash with commentary. You haven't completed the Shas Mishnayot, like the 12-year-old kids did at our recent event in Israel. You haven't completed the Shas Bavli, like some of the 16-year-old students that we have. You haven't completed anything in your life, but you assume that just because you read a 10-page article by some guy who probably doesn't even keep Shabbat, you decided that you know more than Gdolei Israel, the giant sages among Am Yisrael. So, anytime you discuss the Zohar, you're always going to have one of those people that say these foolish things. So again, since we already started with addressing the elephant brains in the room, we're going to add that to it. Furthermore, going into the Torah, we go into the Zohar Kadosh in Parashat Tazria, page 51a. Here, the Zohar teaches about what happened with Gehazi. Gehazi was the servant, the Gabai of Elisha Navi, who lied and desecrated the name of God in such a big way that the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 90a, says that he lost his share of the world to come. The short version of the story is, aside from all of the other sins that Gehazi did, whether it was immorality or withholding Torah students from learning Torah, or lying and false vows, the biggest thing was the fact that he lied to his rabbi, to Elisha and Navi, when Naaman, the general of the army of Aram, who had tzarat, the famous biblical disease that there's still a hospital in Yerushalayim for people that have tzarat, as it's incurable with anything, with any medicine of this world. It's a spiritual disease that also has physical implications. And when Naaman came with tzarat and was cured miraculously by following the guidance of Elisha and Navi, by going and dipping into the Jordan River, this of course was a big Kiddush Hashem. This was completely miraculous. It had nothing to do with the water. It had to do with him humbling himself and listening to the Da'at Torah, to the opinion of the Torah. After this, Naaman wanted to convert to Judaism and wanted to convince his entire nation to convert to Judaism. And that's what he was planning to do. After getting cured, he also wanted to give an enormous amount of money and anything else that Elisha would ask for. But Elisha rejected everything, saying to him that he's not looking for money, power, or anything else. He's happy that he was able to help him and to sanctify God's name, and that's it. He wanted nothing in return. Naaman was so happy about this that he was ready to convert himself and his entire nation to Judaism. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, chased after Naaman and asked him for money, clothing, and all types of things in the name of Elisha, saying that Elisha was, too humble to ask directly, but surely he would need something from you. He is requesting, and he sent me. And when Elisha found this out, he cursed Gehazi with a curse that lasts until this day. As the verse in the book of Kings 2, chapter 5, verse 27 says, Tzarat Naaman, tidabek becha v'zaracha leolam, that the tzarat of Naaman will cleave onto you and your descendants forever. That's the background of the Zohar. Why did he curse him that way? Because he made Chilul Hashem. After this, Naaman, although still impressed by Elisha, the prophet, he no longer wanted to convert. He decided to become a righteous Noahide, which means that Gehazi stopped not just one person and his family from converting to Judaism, but an entire people, millions of people, from converting to Judaism, from becoming Torah scholars, from becoming something that sanctifies HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, unlike anything else. And therefore Elisha cursed Gehazi with this horrible curse, and the Torah says that Gehazi on the spot became white, and his children also had tzarat. All of them had tzarat. In fact, any of his descendants that are still alive today would still have tzarat. As Rabbi Ephraim said today, I'm sure that if any of Gehazi's descendants are alive today, they're in that hospital in Yerushalayim, have tzarat. Why? This was a curse that has no end. in this world. So the Zohar asks in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, who asks Rabbi Yitzchak the question that you're probably asking. We understand that Gehazi did something terrible. But why curse his kids? What did they do? Why were Gehazi's children cursed too? Says Rabbi Yitzchak, Elisha the prophet saw a level of prophecy unlike any other in his generation. He saw prophecy beyond the norm, let's see if there is a norm in prophecy. And he was able to see all of the descendants that would come out of Gehazi until the end of times, and he confirmed that not a single descendant of Gehazi would ever be a righteous person. And it's therefore better that these descendants have tzarat. Why? Rabbi Ephraim gave a perfect explanation for this. He said in one of the videos, it was live, like we have, usually on TikTok and Facebook, there's always a couple of terrorists there that are spiritual terrorists, but once in a while there's literally real life terrorists, especially since October 7th. So these Muslims come and they curse and they promise they're going to kill people and they do all types of things. And in one of his lectures, there was somebody like this that was making awful remarks, threats. And one of the Jewish people that was listening made a comment also, why don't you block him? Why don't you block this terrorist? And Rabbi Ephraim in his extraordinary wisdom says, why should I block him? Why should I block him? I don't care about what he says about me and the cursing and the insult and so on. In fact, I'm happy that he's here. Why? Because if he's here busy cursing me on the internet and being a terrorist on the internet, at least he's not a terrorist in the street killing our people. It's better he's here than being on the streets, joining Hamas or working for Hamas as he has his whole life since he was 5 years old. It's better. Same concept here. Elisha Hanavi saw the descendants of Gehazi and saw that not a single one of them will be righteous. In fact, they're all going to be problematic people. And therefore, he said it's better that they have tzarat, and therefore, because of tzarat, they are not part of society. Not part of the Jewish society. They're outside of the camp. They're in special hospitals and so on. Furthermore, Elisha said to Gehazi, I was rewarded a double reward as I requested from Eliyahu Hanavi to give me double the amount of miracles that he was able to perform. And I was rewarded that. Why? Because I was a servant of Eliyahu Hanavi, and I did my job with full honesty and sacrifice. But you, Rasha, Gehazi, you hurt me because you lied to me and served dishonestly, making false vows. And therefore, you'll be punished severely in this world with this tzarat and his descendants having tzarat, in order for you to eventually have olam haba. Why? Because even though he served them with lies, there were parts of his servitude that were good, that actually helped Elisha study Torah, that helped Elisha serve Hashem. That part of the servitude, let it not go to waste. We'll use that to give you an entrance to olam haba. But that means you'll have to get an enormous punishment first. First, you should know that this actually conflicts with the opinion in the Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin that says that Gehazi does not have a share of the world to come. or at least the intent of Elisha, would conflict with what the sages said of Gehazi even having a share of the world to come. They say he doesn't. Of course, we always go with the Gemara, but the point being is we see the intentions of the righteous Elisha, even though Gehazi was wicked and evil, he still had mercy on this person without changing the Torah. Rather by saying, you deserve an extraordinary punishment for making a false vow. As the Torah says, somebody makes a false vow, loses Olam Haba. But in order to get that, in order to get that Olam Haba back and have a chance of getting Olam Haba back, you'll have to suffer an extraordinary suffering in this world. And of course, Gehenom, Kafakela, all the other stuff, but eventually still have a ticket to Olam Haba that will ultimately allow you in whenever that sentence is over. So instead of it never ending, the punishment never ending. So we see still, without changing the Torah, you can still show mercy. There is a punishment necessary, but there's still mercy at the end. The Zohar Kadosh continues from here, same page 51a, and mentions other stories that happen with Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yitzchak, where Rabbi Yitzchak would often go to visit his father's house. And one day, as he's on his way to his father's house, he sees a man resting on the side of the road. He's carrying a bunch of wood. And when he's resting, the wood stays on top of him. You know, usually you rest, if you're carrying something, especially if it's something heavy, you put the wood down. But this guy was strange. He was resting, but the wood was still on top of him. And then this strange man got up with the wood still on his shoulders and started going on his way in a hurry. And Rabbi Yitzchak asked him, why don't you take off the wood off your shoulders? But the strange man did not respond to him and hurried away, going towards a cave. And Rabbi Yitzchak followed him. As he goes into the cave, Rabbi Yitzchak sees him from a distance, but he went into the cave as well. Not recommended, by the way. And you'll find out shortly why. He sees that there's a pillar of fire inside the cave coming up. And then this man disappears into one of the secret compartments in that cave, and he's gone. And Rabbi Yitzchak comes out to the entrance of the cave and sits over there. Shortly later, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Chizkiah are also on the road, and Rabbi Yitzchak sees them. And he goes towards them. And he sees his colleagues, Talmidei Chachamim, Gdolei Israel, and he tells them what happened, how he saw this strange man carrying the wood, not putting it down, goes in a cave, fire comes out, the guy disappears, so on and so forth. And to his surprise, Rabbi Yehuda says to him, Baruch Hashem, that Hashem saved you, because this cave belongs to the Metzoraim, meaning the people that have tzarat from the city of Saronia, who are all dealing with witchcraft that they learned from the elders from the desert as young as 10 years old. And they do all of their witchcraft in this cave. God saved you from going and them not hurting you. He tells them about how he knows and how they do their witchcraft. Fine. Now all three of them, Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Chizkiah, are all walking together on the road, not far from this cave, and they see a Jewish man with a donkey, and he has his son tied to the donkey. Not riding the donkey, he's tied to the donkey. And they go up to this man, they say, who are you? And why is your son tied to the donkey? If he wants to ride the donkey, needs to ride the donkey, fine. But why is he tied to the donkey? You don't tie people to the donkey. And the man says to them, I am a Jew. And my son used to learn Torah. He would come home to visit me. And I moved into a new house over the last 3 years, where I saw there was no problem there. Until one day when my son came, all of a sudden some demon, some mazik, some spirit ran into him in the house, and his face, arms, and body all became crooked, and he hasn't been able to talk since then. So where are you going now? His son, today, if something like this would happen, they would, call it a stroke. They would call it, I don't know, some type of syndrome. But in those days, they knew this was a demon. This was some type of dibuk, where a spirit enters the body of a person. So he said, okay, so where are you going now? He says, I'm now going to the sorcerers of the city of Saronia. The same people from the cave. I'm going to see the sorcerers from the city of Saronia so they could teach me how to cure my son. In so many words, this ignorant Jew has 3 Gdolei Israel, 3 giant sages that could resurrect the dead with their holiness in front of him, but instead of asking him for a blessing, asking him for what he should do, what does he do? No, I'm going to the witches, to the sorcerers of the city of Saronia so they could teach my son, who learned Torah a little bit, teach me how to fix this problem of a demon. Rabbi Yehuda asks him, this house that you moved into over the last 3 years, do you know perhaps the history of this house? If anybody else ever got hurt in this house? And the Jew says, yeah, some people say that there are others that got hurt in this house, but I've been living there for 3 years and nothing has happened. Nothing bad has happened except this one thing. So I'm sure that's not the reason. It's not the house. Rabbi Yehuda says to him, the 3 years without damage, proof that you bring is meaningless, as these demons only damage from time to time. They don't just damage every single day, whoever they see, whenever they see it. They pick their spots. And you should not be living there. For our sages have taught us that this is dangerous. And woe to those who ignore our sages. And Rabbi Yehuda says, a chidush about the verse in the Jeremiah chapter 22 verse 3, where it says, woe to the one who builds a house without righteousness. He says, now we see this means that woe to the person who builds a house but doesn't invite the Shechinah there, the Shechinah of Hashem, to the house, to rest there. Why? Because if he doesn't invite the Shechinah, as soon as he moves to a house, he should say, this is the place that the Shechinah should be in. It's welcome here, to be here at all times. Instead of saying that, he doesn't say anything. What's the problem with that? He says, if he doesn't invite the Shechinah to rest in his house, then he doesn't realize that if the Shechinah was there, then all of the Samech Mem, the Sitra Achra, the Yetzirah, and all of his soldiers are afraid of the Shechinah. They don't want to be anywhere near the Shechinah. They would run away from such a place. They wouldn't go there. But if he didn't invite the Shechinah, then all of these evil powers of the Sitra Achra will end up resting there instead. And now, the Shechinah can't come there. So then one of the other sages says to Rabbi Yehuda, wait a minute, are you saying that the Shechinah and the Sitra Achra, the powers of evil, are in the same powers? He goes, no. It's not that they have the same powers. It's that once the Sitra Achra enters a place and rests there, the Shechinah doesn't want to go there anymore. Not because it can't destroy it or defeat it or remove it. No, but simply the Shechinah doesn't want to be any place that's full of that filth or was ever full of that filth to begin with. Doesn't want to go there. It's not for me. He says we learn this also from the prophet Jeremiah. Woe to the person who builds a house without righteousness. And then he tells the Jew, back to this Jew that's in front of them, as they're having this Torah discussion, the Jew is there with his son tied to the donkey. They go back to the Jew and say, listen, and you that is living in a house that's forbidden, you're not allowed to live in this house, you're also forbidden from going to that cave. Because these evil sorcerers can kill your son, not help you. They can kill your son for their own benefits. What does the Jew do? Ignores the rabbis. Says, come on, you guys, what do you guys want me to do? Tshuva, change, learn Torah every day, do all these things? Come on, it's too much. What do you want, my wife to be modest now, cover her hair, learn Torah every day, contribute to Kiruv? No, that's too much. I'm going for a quick fix. I'm going to the sorcerer. I'm going to the psychopath, the psychic, the tarot cards, the coffee reader, the little moon chaser. I'm going to those people. I'm going to these types of people, and they're going to give me a quick fix. They're going to tell me 1, 2, 3, make a soup, put some carrots in it, pretend like it means anything, and fix the problem. He ignores Gdolei Israel, and he goes on his way. He goes on his way. Rabbi Yitzchak says, let's go follow him. Let's go follow him. Actually, I'm sorry, Rabbi Yehuda says, maybe we should follow him. So that way we could see what these sorcerers do. Because we need to know anyway how to judge them. What is, what isn't sorcery? Rabbi Yitzchak says, no, we're forbidden from going with him. To look. Why? Because we must stay away from Tumah. We must stay away from this Tumah. Cannot be part of this impurity. So say, wait a minute, hold on a second. If you're saying this is Tumah, this impurity, okay, maybe we can't touch anything, do what they do. But why can't we go? Can't go? It's not like idolatry. He says, no, it is idolatry. It is idolatry. And as the Gemara in Maseret Pesachim, page 25a says, in the name of Rabbi Yaakov, who says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that a person may be healed with any substance, even things that are forbidden to use, like, for example, pig. If pig will cure you from your ailment, you can use it. If you have a life risk, no problem. If you need to eat pig, you need to eat shrimp, no problem. If that's going to cure you. except the wood of the Asherah. What's the case here? What do you mean that? Why not? He says, because this is benefiting from idol worship. Benefiting from idol worship is forbidden according to all opinions in every condition. Meaning, even if you're sick and your life is on the line, that if you don't take a certain pill, you don't do something, you don't get a cure, you're going to die. Everything else is allowed to you to save your life because the Torah tells you to live by the Torah, not to die, except if it has to do with idol worship. If it's idol worship, it's forbidden. It's better you die and not benefit from idol worship. And the Gemara in Masechet Pesachim over there goes and gives other examples of other things that are forbidden to the extent where one must die and not sin. Such as if somebody tells you, either kill this person or I kill you, you have to die. You can't kill this other person. Unless you're killing somebody for self-defense. But if somebody tells you, either kill somebody or I kill you, you have to die. If somebody tells you, commit adultery or I kill you, you have to die. Meaning, not only is it forbidden to cheat on your wife, not only is it forbidden to cheat on your husband, but in fact, it's forbidden to such an extent that it's better you die than cheat on your husband or wife, according to the Torah. Not only is it forbidden to commit immorality, but the Torah says it's better a person die and not commit immorality, whether it be LGBT, animalistic, bestial, all the distorted crazies. The Torah says has no right to exist. So here, Rabbi Yitzchak says, this witchcraft is idol worship. And it's forbidden for us to even go watch it. And the other sages say, oh, if that's Da'at Torah, we're not going to be like this Jew with his son and not listen. If you're saying we're not allowed, even though it's interesting, even though we're not planning on, doing it, or there's no chance of us, becoming sorcerers anytime soon. We're just looking there to study for the sake of Torah, meaning to study this in order to know what's allowed, what's not allowed, in order to know how to evaluate evil. But you're saying it's not allowed to even do that because it's idol worship? No problem. We're not going. Shortly thereafter, these Chachamim are still on the road, and they see the man again. But this time, his son that's tied to the donkey is dead and burned. And he cries to them and he says to them, what happened? He says, I got to the cave. And I brought my son in there because they told me they could help me. And then as I went back to go tie my donkey so he doesn't run away, as I returned back, I see that they elevated some type of fire and burned my son alive. Why? They're evil. Simple. They have some type of benefit out of creating death. They burn the kid, and that's it. Now, in today's world, when somebody dies, immediately everyone feels bad. And the people that are kiss-ups, that pretend to be rabbis, will say, oh, he is in heaven right now. He died on Kiddush Hashem. Automatically, everyone that dies is Kiddush Hashem. What, there was a terrorist attack? Yeah, he died? Oh, it's Kiddush Hashem. How is that Kiddush Hashem exactly? No one knows. Not even the Rambam. They gave clarification of what Kiddush Hashem is. But apparently everyone that dies today is a Kiddush Hashem. At least according to people that like donations. And let donations become their Mara de Atra, their rabbi. Reality is there's no Kiddush Hashem there. Just because a terrorist killed you doesn't mean you died on Kiddush Hashem. If you died defending the Torah, that's Kiddush Hashem. But anyway, here, in the world of Torah, where you look at the Zohar, you look at the Gemara, you look at Shulchan Aruch, you look at the Rambam, you look at Gdolei Israel, you're not going to find any of this nonsense. What are you going to find? What the appropriate response is to this father who is now dealing with a dead son. What does he say to him? Says Rabbi Yitzchak to this father, Baruch Hashem, Arachaman, Asher Kol Ma'asav Emet, V'drachav Badin. Blessed is Hashem, the merciful, that all of his deeds are the truth and his ways of judgment. Meaning, you made a sin by ignoring Da'at Torah. God punished you by killing your son. The worst punishment that you could have in this world is Shemachem, dead kids during your lifetime. You ignored Da'at Torah. Now you have the suffering of a dead son. That's righteousness of God. Why? You went against the Torah. God punished you. Baruch Hashem. Ashrehem HaTzadikim sheholchim bederech haemet. And he says, and praiseworthy are the tzadikim, referring to the three tzadikim, but especially the two that listened to Da'at Torah, where he said we're not allowed to go to that cave. Why? Because it's idol worship. Even though it's interesting, even though we can learn something from there, even for our benefit, even for the benefit of Klal Yisrael and all types of other things, you could rationalize it. Forbidden. He says, praiseworthy are the tzaddikim that go in the path of truth. You go with Da'at Torah, you go with the opinion of the Torah, you're always going to be on the path of truth. Even though it looks like a bumpy road, it leads to a good destination. You go with a different da'at, even if it looks smooth, it's a dead end. It's a dead end. Now, why did these sorcerers kill the kid? Because they're evil. That's the reason. Witchcraft is evil. And it does whatever it sees fit for their own interest, without any mercy or concern for what's in the interest of other people. That's why the Torah says in multiple places, Machshefa lo techayeh. Someone that was caught as a witch, practicing witchcraft, at the time of the Sanhedrin would receive the death penalty. No prison sentence, no excommunication, no ban, no rebuke, death sentence. Now, how does this affect our world today? Everything we've learned. Well, first and foremost, the first thing that we see when we compare the first story of Elisha and Avi to these second story with these sorcerers from this cave, from the city of Saronia, we see the difference between the righteous and the wicked and how they deal with life. On the side of the witchcraft, the fact that the kid was with his father, the father was suffering, he wants to heal his kid, he needs their help, he's willing to pay them, he came all the way there, made a sacrifice, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Why? It's more in their interest to kill these kids than it is to keep them alive. Why? That's the reason. They're evil. People sometimes ask, well, how come these guys pretending to be a Kabbalist or pretending to be righteous, but he really isn't? Because he's evil. That's the reason. Yeah, but doesn't he care about how people have a lot of faith in him and they give him a lot of money and they really think that he's going to bring a cure? No, he doesn't care. She doesn't care. Why? Because it's evil. That's the reason. They don't care. On the other hand, the righteous Elisha the prophet, even though Gehazi lied and cheated and committed all types of heinous crimes against God, against the Torah, against his rabbi, Elisha. Elisha couldn't eliminate the punishment. A punishment must be given. But I'm going to pray that it's given to you in this world. So that way, at some point, the enormous suffering that your body and soul will suffer will be enough to pay for this crime so you can have a share of the world to come, where the suffering will eventually end. Even though you're wicked, even though you're Rasha, even though you're a liar, still, there is something good that you did, and therefore I'll pray for you. We see here, first thing first, logic and ideology of the righteous versus the wicked. Secondly, for those people that are looking for shortcuts, whether it's by going to some fortune teller or some person that says that he speaks to God or he speaks to angels or maybe he speaks to mice and rats, not really sure who people speak to anymore, speaks to the dead, can't have a conversation with the living, but he's personally friendly with the dead. All of these strange types of people know this. Most of the time, it's fake, it's con men, it's liars. Which means you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, and you're making a sin. Which you'll have to go to Gehanom for, maybe kafakela, perhaps even your chibut hakeva will be lengthened as a result of this. Even if it's fake. Even if it's fake. In the case that it's real, that he really can speak to the dead, understand the mouse, read through the cards, read the stars, all of this mumbo jumbo that they have, make a soup and somehow tell the future through it, read the coffee, read your hand, all this nonsense, all of this witchcraft, if it's real, it's using kochot atumah, it's using the powers of impurity, and is forbidden 100%. Which means, even if they're able to help you in some way or another, you should know that the price that you will pay for that help is so dear. You will regret the day that you met them. You'll regret the day that you were born. I know firsthand of a person that went and got blessings, or at least what seemed to be blessings, by going to some type of fortune teller, if you will, that helped him make money, helped him do all types of things in the world. No, it's not me. Don't worry. I never went to any of these people. But this person went to this psychic on a regular basis. And in the beginning, he saw blessings. All of a sudden, his businesses are flourishing. Investments are flourishing. He's picking good investments. Everything is working. Until everything collapsed. But collapsed in a way that literally made his neighbors that were paying rent, or tenants that were paying rent, rich next to him. In another case, a woman that was involved in this type of witchcraft saw blessings in the beginning. She made money, she got all types of things, but then she started getting one curse after another, to the point where she had to have a life-saving surgery and poverty for, I think, something like 10 years, 12 years, getting thrown out of houses, suffering endlessly for years. Why? Machshefa lo techaye. Witchcraft is forbidden, Rabotai. It cannot be allowed to live. And those that make it on purpose or accidental are making a mistake of their life nonetheless. Making a mistake of their life. Because they're trying to manipulate the natural order while ignoring the instructions of the Torah. In so many words, they're looking for a shortcut to get whatever they want. Now you would say, well, if it's so bad, why did God allow it? Why did God give it to people? Because you have free choice. You have the choice to be good or evil. If the only choice was for you to be good, that would not make you good, because that would be the only choice. But if there's a choice to be good or evil, and you choose to be good, you thereby deserve the reward that comes to those that choose good. You choose evil rather than good, it's just to punish you for choosing evil. The amount of impurity that's connected to witchcraft is not something that I can quantify in words, but I could try to explain it to you. There are certain sins where, if, let's say, for example, a Jew eats non-kosher, this is something that creates an evil spirit. Like all sins create evil spirits. This affects his soul or her soul and their ability to understand Torah. But if they stop eating non-kosher, they do tshuva for it, it's easily fixable. Because your blood is constantly renewed, and your soul has the chance to do tshuva without having any type of spiritual withdrawal that's connected to non-kosher food. If somebody steals, they created mazik, a demon of some kind. Obviously, it's a sin. But if they stop and they do tshuva and they're on the path of returning everything that they stole, and they commit to not stealing anymore, and they learn about the forbidden act of stealing in order to know how to stay away from it and even encourage others to do it, then whatever damage that they did to their soul is easily fixable. But if a person commits some source of witchcraft, they are now connecting themselves to the world of mezikim, to the world of Tumah. They're cleaving their soul to the world of impurity. They're surrounding themselves with impurity at all times, and not just during the times where they are performing witchcraft or even listening to it where somebody else is helping them or supposedly helping them, reading their cards, their coffee, and all the other nonsense. They're now connecting their soul to witchcraft and the powers of impurity, the powers of evil. And this, Rabotai, is not something that just goes away. They have now connected themselves to the impurity of idolatry. They have connected themselves to the source of all impurity. And now they have put themselves in a situation where even if they want to stop, they're no longer going to go to the tarot card reader. They're no longer going to go to the psychic. They're no longer going to take blood out of their body in order to perform all types of Satanism or waste seed for the sake of Satanism or all types of other things that are connected to witchcraft. They're no longer going to play with the Ouija board. They're no longer going to do any of these things that are in the world of, are standard in the world of witchcraft. Even though they want to abandon it, and even though they want to come to a Shiur Torah, and even though they want to say, I'm sorry to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, it doesn't just go away just like that. Why? You've cleaved onto impurity. You're going to have to uncleave. And uncleaving is a painful process. It's possible, but it takes time, an extraordinary amount of effort, and pain. Lots of it. And that pain will come at somewhere or another and at some time or another. As the Gemara says in Masechet Yomah, there are certain sins that a person has to simply say, I'm sorry. Other sins that he has to say, I'm sorry, repent, and wait for Yom Kippur. Other sins that he has to say, I'm sorry, wait for Yom Kippur, and suffer. And then there's Chilul Hashem, where he has to say, I'm sorry, Yom Kippur, suffer, and die at some point, whenever that point is that Hashem decides. The point is, Rabotai Ikarim, when a person connects themselves to witchcraft, they're connecting themselves to the ultimate spiritual filth of the world that is very, very hard to unravel and remove yourself from. It's possible. I don't want to discourage anybody from that. I can assure you that it is possible, but it's not easy. And that's why when people say that this so-called Chassid convert was really learning Torah, was really a frum Yid, but yet he was practicing witchcraft from the time he was a child and hasn't stopped until today, I could assure you, he knows nothing about nothing when it comes to the world of Torah, other than a little bit about a lot of different things, just to be able to hold a conversation. You know, there are some people that sound smart. They use big words. They use a variety of subjects in order to make themselves sound like intellectuals, make themselves sound like they're knowledgeable, make themselves even sound like experts. Until the experts discover that they're fools, but are very good at being con men. In the business world, you have that when people, instead of studying the material that's necessary in order to become experts and acquiring the experience that's required in order to become experts, these people study the dictionary. Either the dictionary for the entire language or the dictionary for a specific field, in order to use big words in conversation at such random places and in such fluent manner that it sounds like they're geniuses. Wow, he used this really big word, but nobody wants to admit that they don't actually understand what this big word means. But this guy, if he's using it as a day-to-day conversation, he must be a genius, he must be an expert, he must know more than I do. And it's very common where people literally study the dictionary just to sound smart without actually being smart. They'll bring out a paper, they'll bring out writings with a lot of intellectual things to say, but forget, just so conveniently, to mention that these smart things they have to say were really the thoughts and ideas of others, much smarter and much more of an expert than I am. It's called plagiarism. Like, if you want to know more of the details of plagiarism, just look up the president of the Harvard University, who's a very good plagiarist, perhaps even an expert at plagiarism. Also an expert at promoting anti-Semitism. But anyway, Rabotai, con men are not stupid people. They're very smart. But they're smart at being con men. They're smart at knowing just enough to make themselves dangerous. In the world of Torah, it's very easy to identify a con man if you know what you're talking about, if you know Torah, if you live Torah. You can't just know a few books. You can't just live it as part of your life. If it is your life, it's very easy to spot a con man. Why? Because you know what it looks like. You know what it sounds like. And therefore, when somebody says, I completed the whole Shas, and I was on my second one, and I think I was second round. I think I was maybe on Masechet Shabbat. No one that actually studies the Shas would talk like that. Why? Simple. If you study the Shas, you know exactly where you hold. You know which Masechet, you know which daf, you even know which amud. Furthermore, if you're really learning Shas, it forces you to change your life, whether you like it or not. Why? Because it becomes part of you. But if you're reading it like a novel, if you're skimming it, if you're just briefly going over each page, just enough to find a word that sounds familiar, then of course, you're never going to get to the point of abandoning your evil ways, adapting all the purity and good that you learn from there, because you're not learning anything. But if somebody asks you a question, surely you can convince them that you're learning and you are part of it. But in reality, you know that you're a con man. And if you don't, then you're even sicker than the average con man. Because most con men know that they're con men. Now, Rabotai Karim, if you ask why would somebody sponsor or convert such a person that deals with witchcraft, that has a wife that is, at the very least, seems like she committed pedophilia, the age gap, the time they met, according to the law of the land. Why would somebody sponsor that? For the same reason that they justify sponsoring just some average goy just to make a minyan. For the same reason they could justify watching movies that are forbidden. For the same reason they justify watching those movies on Shabbat, in an open field surrounded by all types of other fans of these old movies. For the same reason they justify converting a bunch of other people that have no concept of what Judaism is. According to Judaism, the common denominator about all of that is wickedness. Wickedness, evil, that's what it is. A complete disregard to the Masoret, a complete disregard to the traditions of Judaism, the laws of Judaism, the sages of Judaism, and most importantly, the God of Israel. A complete disregard to all of it. Last but not least, when people ask, why do the Muslims hate the Jews? Didn't they have good relationship throughout all of history? Now, if you listen to the Muslims of today, they'll tell you, yeah, we always had a good relationship with the Jews until they took our land. But if you have this question asked of the Mufti, who was good friends with Hitler, and in fact, fought side by side with him and even built a concentration camp to kill Jews alongside Hitler, he won't answer the same way. In fact, if you ask the previous leaders of Morocco, of Tripoli, where my grandfather is, of different Jewish communities throughout all of history, you're also going to get a different answer. Because you're going to find well over 100 different pogroms where the Muslims massacred the Jewish people. Whether it was in the early part of the first millennium, about 1400 years ago, where Muhammad massacred a bunch of Jews in Medina, or the massacres in Egypt at the year 629, where they exterminated 14 Jewish tribes, Arabian Jewish tribes, or whether you look at the Caliph 1200 years ago, what happened in Yemen about 800 years ago, Morocco multiple times, Turkey, Baghdad, Algiers, Maza in Yemen, or you even look at the earlier part of the 1900s, before modern day Israel. There are many massacres of Jewish people, whether it's the massacres in Cairo in 1902, Alexandria in 1901 to 1907, where they would literally kill Jews in the streets. The pogrom in Casablanca in 1907, the Baghdadi Jews that were murdered by the Turks in 1917, the first Jaffa riots in 1921, the massacres in Jerba, Tunisia, 1922. What happened in Syria, the pogroms there. You can find this all in history books. Or you could just go to jewishrefugees.org. You can see a list of over 100 massacres of the Jewish people by the Muslim world. If you call that peace, what's war? Now, You ask yourself, why do they do all of this? And the answer is still the same. Evil. Evil is evil, and therefore it does evil things. Once we understand what evil is, we can then align our expectations accordingly and stop searching for peace, as it's no longer possible. You can have a ceasefire, but not peace. There is no peace with evil. There's ceasefire, there's a break, there is a time where they're not going to attack you as openly, as abruptly as others, but always keep one eye open, because the evil can return at any time, because that's what evil things do. Rabotai Karim, the spiritual enemies of Am Yisrael are even more dangerous than the physical enemies of Am Yisrael. And the reason why, Rabotai, is because even if all of the physical enemies, the Irans and the Iraqs and the Egyptians and the Hamasniks and the Nazis and whoever else hates the Jews, even if they all gather together and they want to hurt Am Yisrael, they will never be allowed to do so unless we already fell for the attacks of the spiritual enemies. Why? Because the spiritual enemies, they only get to win if we allow them to. They only get to attack if we open the door. They only get to succeed if we want them to, if we help them to. The spiritual enemies, whether it is from Christianity, witchcraft, other forms of idolatry, or simply immorality and other types of sinful behavior like dishonest business and terrible behavior and ethics. All of these types of spiritual enemies are only allowed to succeed if we allow them to. In fact, if we desire for them to. Because we think that somehow they'll let us live in the end. Just like the poor Jew who tried to save his son by using witchcraft. If you could identify the enemy and know that he's an enemy and will never be anything else, you've already won half the battle. And you can stop further damage from happening. Whether it's further damage from false converts or further damage from anything else that could happen to you, your family, or your community. You can stop it by first identifying the enemy and knowing that it will never be otherwise. It will never be not an enemy. Once you've done that, you've done yourself and whoever is around you a very, very big chesed, a very big kindness. But until you do, you should know you're responsible for everything that happens around you in your community based on your position. If you're simply a father or a mother of a few kids and that's all, that's your responsibility, as Hashem gave us the kids as a loan, as the Torah says. If you're responsible for a synagogue, a community, you're responsible for them. Not just to tell them when to pray and where to donate. You're responsible for them. And therefore you're responsible from keeping away from all of these enemies. The spiritual ones, much more than the physical ones. Because the physical ones only get permission to enter once the spiritual ones are already inside. If you are a position of power to lead an entire segment, a city, a country, then you should know you were given an extraordinary stage, an extraordinary responsibility. You're responsible for everyone. Choose wisely. Thank you very much for learning with me. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless each and every single one of you with bracha, with atzlacha, with siyata dishmaya, to follow the right path of the Torah and the Mitzvot, and stay away from evil, whichever form it comes. Kol tuv, bracha v'atzlacha to everyone. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will learn again tomorrow. For any of you that want to help us with all the extraordinary things that the organization is doing, you could donate on be'ezathashem.org. You could wire the money. You could send a copy of a check. You could do a lot of different things, especially if you want to do before the end of the year, the Gregorian calendar year, cyclical year. But if you simply want to share this video and make the mitzvah, that's also good too. Kol tuv, bracha v'atzlacha.